Ryan Kaji was just 3 years old when his parents started posting videos of him to YouTube. It was a way of easily giving Ryan's grandparents in Japan a connection to his everyday life. But before long, Ryan's videos started getting views, a lot of views. And along with these views came money. So much money that in 2017, Ryan was featured on Forbes' annual list of the 10 highest paid YouTubers. But this wasn't just a one-off, as Ryan has now made the list every year since that first appearance. When he first made the list, Ryan was by far the youngest creator featured. But in 2019, he was joined by 5-year-old Nastya whose channel, like Nastya, has also made the list every year since. From 2017 to 2022, Forbes estimates these two earned a combined $147 million, and that's just from YouTube. Ryan is estimated to have earned an additional $200 million in 2020 from Ryan's World branded clothing and toy sales, in addition to signing a multi-million-dollar contract with Nickelodeon to create a series. Ryan and Nastya are at the forefront of a growing trend of kidfluencers, children who are the public faces of brands run by their parents. And while it may on the surface seem like the perfect business model, many of the same factors that have contributed to the all-too-familiar stereotype of the child star who has a public implosion are also present in the world of social media. We simply haven't had enough time to see it play out, but the future implosion of some kidfluencers seems inevitable. And if this wasn't bad enough, a lack of regulations and protections means it might be time to heavily scrutinize any parent who puts their kid on the track to social media stardom. In 2020, author Tim Ferriss published a blog post titled 11 Reasons Not to Become Famous, in which he acknowledges the benefits of fame while highlighting some of the lesser talked about downsides. The overall tone of the post is cautionary and would make anybody in the pursuit of fame think twice about such a goal. Which raises the first issue with child stars: consent. Children are not fully capable of comprehending the potential ramifications of fame. While we might look at an adult complaining about their lack of privacy or inability to walk out in public without being recognized and say, well, they knew what they were getting into, we cannot say the same for children. Any photo, video, or even a Facebook post about a child is information that has been added to the internet without their consent, contributing to a public image they themselves have no part in creating. An Atlantic article titled "When Kids Realize Their Whole Life is Already Online" asked kids for their thoughts after Googling themselves and seeing the results. On realizing her mom had been posting photos of her for much of her life, Kara, aged 11, said, "I've wanted to bring it up. It's weird seeing myself up there, and sometimes there's pics I don't like of myself." Allie, 4th grade. "My parents always posted about me. I was basically fine with it. Then I realized I was making an impression and I was an actual person online too, through her page." Some kids even realized the potential dangers of having seemingly innocuous information online. Ellen, age 11, says, "I didn't think I would be out there like this on the internet. No matter what you do, it's out there for people to know. My swim meet records are out there. Now people know I'm a swimmer. The internet tells you where all the swim meets are, so that would probably tell my general location. It tells you my school. Parts of my story online were in Spanish. Now people know I speak Spanish." Ellen is absolutely right to acknowledge the dark side of internet exposure. Once something is posted online, there is very little control over what is done with it. An article by Stacy B. Steinberg of the University of Florida Levin College of Law includes the story of a woman who discovered innocent pictures she had posted of her young twins' toilet training had been altered and were being shared on an explicit website. In 2019, YouTube suspended comments on most videos featuring children after realizing people were leaving timestamps in the comments for frames in the video that were sexually suggestive in nature. One family YouTuber noticed her percentage of male viewers dropped from 40% to 17% after she disabled the ability for the videos to be downloaded. These are shocking discoveries for parents, but imagine them going unnoticed until the kids find them. Former child star Mara Wilson, best known for Matilda and Mrs. Doubtfire, recalls feeling ashamed after Googling herself and discovering photos of herself on foot fetish websites, along with numerous other photoshopped images. The negative effects of online content on children aren't limited to after they've been posted. The process of creating the content itself has its own issues. The ease at which we can take photos and videos with our phones today means most kids will never go a week, and some scarcely a day, without being recorded. Dr. Joanne Orlando finds this constant recording of our children concerning. It really takes away from a child just being in the moment. It's taking away from the enjoyment and moving into performance, particularly for kids who don't like having their photo taken or who don't want to be interrupted. They have to look a certain way or smile. It complicates their activities. And this complicating of their activities isn't to be taken lightly.
Well, that's just not fair, is it?
As Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood once said, play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning. But for children, play is serious learning. Play is really the work of childhood. Non-instructed and long periods of uninterrupted play as a child have been identified as important factors in developing executive functioning, emotional regulation, focus, patience, problem solving, self-regulation, creative thinking, and self-initiation. Aside from potentially interrupting an important development process, constantly taking kids out of a play state highlights another problem: disregarding a child's current emotions. It's easy for us to look at a child playing and see it as silly, but to the child, in that moment, what they're doing seems intensely serious. To them, stopping to pose for a photo or say a line for a video is the child equivalent of someone shutting off your computer while you're working to meet a deadline at your job. In one video from the Shaytards, a family vlogging channel, 9-year-old Abia begs her dad to remove part of a video he had just shot in which she talks about flirting with a classmate. Her father tells her it's good footage and that in 10 years she'll look back on the video and think it was cute. This may be true, but as with interrupting play, this is a dismissal of obvious current feelings about the situation as invalid. Kids need to feel their world is taken seriously by their parents. To have responses to your concerns be some variation of, "this won't matter in the future," does them no good. The effect of public exposure to this point has been mild, but things start to change as children become teenagers. Professor of Child Development David Elkins says the development of the prefrontal cortex, which can be thought of as our thinking cap or judgment center, is primarily responsible for many of the changes seen in puberty. As it develops, we experience a sort of waking up, in which we suddenly look at the world more analytically and with more reasoning skills. This is why as teens we start suddenly butting heads with our parents. In the age of social media, preteens may suddenly look at an entire lifetime of content that has been posted by their parents with fresh eyes and new questions. They may begin to feel embarrassed and resentful, questioning what right the parent had to post anything without their permission. They might also realize they've had an image forced upon them for their entire lives, an image that is not necessarily of their making and doesn't represent them as a person today. An Atlantic article featuring a profile of family influencer Mini Style Hacker states, "Many of these posts are sponsored by retailers, such as The Honest Company, Jessica Alba's baby product brand, or eBay." Nixon said these companies accurately represent her Los Angeles-based family values, which means you won't see Mini Style Hacker promoting CBD oils, diet pills, or anything Colette thinks her kids would be embarrassed by when they grow up. This seems well-intentioned, but an assumption is being made that the mother knows what her kids will and won't be embarrassed by 5, 10, or 20 years from now. It's completely natural for teens to feel they no longer align with an identity that's been forced upon them for their entire lives. As the prefrontal cortex develops, it wants to practice its newfound skills, and does so by pushing boundaries, arguing with parents, and helping the teen create a unique identity. For someone in the public eye, rebellion becomes very difficult. In an article for Cracked, Mara Wilson says, "Nearly every teenager rebels, but most of them have about 5 people they need to answer to when they screw up. Now, imagine if you, as a kid, had millions of people watching your every move." One group especially relevant to kids in the world of social media: sponsors. Even if a child might seem set for life, the family may have gotten used to a certain level of income, and it's up to the child to make sure the money keeps flowing. Additionally, many sponsors become irrelevant as soon as the child shows any signs of aging outside of their demographic. But while rebellion can be delayed, it must happen in one way or another. And delaying the inevitable seems to ensure it'll only be worse when it does happen. As the teen gets older, aging becomes undeniable, and the forces that once kept them in check begin to fade away. The easing of these pressures coincides with an increase in freedom, usually in the form of a car, legally being able to drink, and no longer having to attend school being a few. Whereas 15-year-olds rebel by skipping school and cutting curfew, 18 to 21-year-olds rebel in a much bigger and age-appropriate way. They're adults, and they're eager to prove it to a world that still sees them as being a child. Exacerbating this rebellion is a social phenomenon that has brought down many a child star over the years. Donna over at Internet Impact has a great video on Justin Bieber's rise, fall, and eventual redemption, in which she analyzes how Justin Bieber's seemingly innocent popularity turned to hatred. Simply disliking his music is one thing, but ranking him as the 5th most disliked man in America amongst convicted murderers seems to warrant an explanation. Donna says this hateful reaction likely has its roots in social comparison theory, which posits we are constantly using comparison to determine where we ourselves rank in the world. When we realize we are beneath someone whose position we cannot rise above, we resort to doing what we can to bring them down. This is likely the source of bullying that led to Jake Lloyd to retire from acting. In the case of many celebrities, especially with child stars who we seem to perceive as not having done much to earn their success, jealousy takes over before reason. We first decide we don't like them, and then look for evidence to justify our feelings. Justin Bieber reached a point where he seemingly couldn't do anything right. Every move was scrutinized, every mildly controversial action given as proof of his defectiveness. Eventually, finding it impossible to rise above, he accepted the role of the villain society had bestowed upon him. He would eventually redeem himself, completing his arc. But not every star is equipped for such a redemption. The saying, "pressure creates diamonds," refers to the fact that life's pressures often lead us to becoming the best possible version of ourselves. Feeling insecure about our looks may force us to start working out. And through changing our appearance, we also realize we're capable of setting and achieving goals, pushing past mental barriers, and how to be patient and trust the process when trying to change. Being in a poor financial situation might lead to you investigating how to make some money on the side, which could turn into a successful full-time business and get you out of a job that you hate, completely transforming your life and giving you the confidence that you can overcome any situation. Unfortunately, those pressures present for most young adults may be absent in the lives of child stars, leading to complacency. They have no shortage of people giving them attention, no money problems, and they expect their future to look very much the same. It may also delay them thinking about their lives with any deeper level of introspection. Mara Wilson uses Lindsay Lohan as an example. She's been acting all her life, has little education, and in her mind, there's nothing else she can do. She also likely hasn't sincerely wondered what she should do with her life, or free time. She has never been bored. We often discover what we love out of boredom, when forced to explore, to be creative. Many of these former child stars are left stranded with dwindling opportunities and public interest, left with nothing more than their accumulated fortune. But this raises what might be the most concerning issue when it comes to the world of kidfluencers. It's completely unregulated. Jackie Coogan was an actor who was perhaps best known for playing Uncle Fester in The Addams Family. Coogan was one of the first child stars in Hollywood and earned between $4 and $5 million, which would today be worth between $44 and $59 million, all before the age of 21. Upon turning 21, Coogan discovered that his mother and stepfather had squandered nearly his entire fortune. They claimed that Jackie enjoyed acting and simply thought he was playing before the camera. His mom insisted that no promises were ever made to give Jackie anything, and claimed he was a bad boy. Coogan sued in 1938, but was only able to recoup $126,000, about $2.6 million in today's money, which is no small sum, but is nowhere near close to the Set for Life plus some money he was expecting. This led to California enacting the California Child Actors Bill, often referred to as the Coogan Law, which requires employers to put 15% of child workers' earnings into a trust, now known as a Coogan account. But as of today, this does not apply to social media. Because they are not seen as working, but simply being recorded doing everyday things by their parents, kidfluencers such as Ryan and Nastya are not entitled to a dime of the millions they've earned for their parents. And money aside, kidfluencers aren't even subject to the usual child labor laws that govern the traditional entertainment industry. Current legislation states that children should not perform for more than 6 consecutive days, and children under age 5 to 9 should not perform continuously for more than 2.5 hours per day. However, this does not extend to user-generated content, which is seen, as Mrs. Coogan put it, as kids just playing in front of the camera. We might think a 10-minute video is short, but we don't see the time it took to try on different outfits, stage the lighting and angles, set up the toys, redo missed shots and misspoken lines, and waiting around while parents fiddle with equipment. We also don't account for things like media appearances, photo shoots, and interviews, which are all exempt from being counted as child labor. When asked why the regulations do not apply to YouTubers, a Department of Education spokesperson said, "We trust parents to act in the best interest of their child." Try telling that to Jackie Coogan. The fact is, when children start becoming breadwinners of their families, the line between what's good for the kid and what's good for the parent can be easily blurred. In her book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, former actress Jeanette McCurdy recalls a time around the age of 10 when she told her mom she wanted to quit acting. Her mom became hysterical, bursting into tears and screaming, "Don't be silly, you love acting, it's your favorite thing in the world." And, "You can't quit, this was our chance, this was our chance." Eventually, McCurdy gave in, saying never mind, and that she actually did want to act. Children will do almost anything to please their parents. While McCurdy's mother's reaction was over the top, Children can be responsive to even subtle changes in a parent's demeanor, being nudged in a certain direction by changing attitudes and unwritten communication. Yes, of course, parents make many decisions for their kids that have long-term and far-reaching consequences, but many of these are benign. The decision to give your child a public image is one that cannot be undone, and one that can wind up wreaking havoc. While the fame and money that come along with the views can be alluring, we'd be well advised to let kids be kids. Daniel Radcliffe seems to be someone who's managed to escape the negative consequences of child stardom. But even he doesn't have a good explanation as to why, aside from the fact he had loving parents who always put his needs first, asking him after every Harry Potter movie if he still wanted to do the next one. But even with examples such as Radcliffe, on the whole there seems to be more negatives to being a child star than positives. In the end, it does not appear to be a risk worth taking.
Will you know if you've crossed the line and become obnoxious?
I think I will. I think that there are so many kid stars that have fallen down the wrong path and that have been just done the wrong thing because this is a hard business and people just lose themselves.
I try to have friends, but if I tell them anything, they get kind of, jealous and, I want to ride this, I want to do that, I want to play Nintendo in your house, can I go in your house, can I meet your brother, stuff like that. So I try to, just be normal.
It's great that, everyone says I'm going to be a big star and everything. I just don't want to let it go to my head. I want to stay normal. I'm still going to regular school, and I'm going to continue that and everything. And I want to still, have my friends and everything like that. I don't want to change very much.